Super Dave here for another review. Super Dave here with another exciting review, and today we're looking at a Super 7 release in their new wave of Club Grayskull action figures, Shadow Weaver. And I'm not saving the best for last. I'm actually going to do the best first, or the one that I was most anticipating. Not necessarily the best action figure, but there's the mailer box, and here's that Club Grayskull packaging that we all are familiar with and love. The drawbridge, the slipcover, and there is the Shadow Weaver. And when they did the Classics version, it was only for those who were able to join or be a subscriber to Matty Collectors, and I was not in on that back then. But here is our prize. Wonderful, wonderful packaging and an awesome looking action figure. So after trying to win her on eBay and unsuccessfully because she was so expensive, we finally are able to get this beautiful Filmation version of Shadow Weaver. Here's the bio if you'd like to read that. Just pause it and check that out. But Shadow Weaver was from the Etheria kingdom of Mysticor and planet Etheria, and she was in this magic arts school with people like Castaspello and ladies like Castaspello, and they were rivals, they were peers, and her name was Beatrix, and she had a lust for power. I mean, she was very competitive and grew as an enchanter, wanting more and more abilities. And so Horde Prime came along, and Hordak promised her more powers. And so with a gem and a stone, and combining the powers of science and magic, promised her if she would come along and help him conquer Etheria, he would give her those improved powers, more powers. And that's exactly what he did. And in the process, that magic, that transition, it disfigured Beatrix, which is her real name, but also called Allura Lightspinner. Then after being disfigured and becoming such a powerful, the most powerful enchantress and magician on the planet of Etheria, now she is known as Shadow Weaver and causes chills of dread to go across anyone who sees her, even to this day. And I was really excited that even though the prototype showed the green orb being flat green paint, that it is translucent. So let's break her open and check her out and look at her accessories before we go to the review booth and look at her articulation. All right, here is our Shadow Weaver out of the package. And the first accessory that she comes with, because as you know, she hovers. If you watch the Filmation cartoon, she hovers.
I will keep him honest, my student. Train him in the ways of dark magic. And it cannot get more power as long as the Etherean moons are dark.
Now, they were never able to make a vintage version of this particular action figure until Super 7 did in their recently released 5 1/4 scale kind of vintage style figures. But this is only the second time it's been released in Classics, and in this case kind of like the Filmation Club Grayskull. But there's the first accessory she comes with, is that base which allows her to hover. And she is a little shorter than the first release that Classics, the Motu Classics, did back in 2012. But this is excellent, excellent, excellent. And that's the first accessory, is the little stand that she comes with. Now, there's a kind of a smooth carved out section there in the bottom, but there's no legs underneath there, but you can see like the shape of her legs underneath, like that gown, like a robe that she's wearing. And so you just plug that into the bottom, and that way your Shadow Weaver can hover just like she's supposed to be able to. And kind of like Orko, I guess, in a way, but not as not as far up. She hovered just above the ground. But anyway, let's take a look at her other accessories. The first one here that we'll take a look at is this nice little flame wand. It's a translucent yellow, looks like a little flame. Almost looks like when you're moving it around that it has a flicker effect when you move it because of the way the light hits. It's really neat. I think that's a really cool accessory. And of course there's a hole in her right hand that allows her to slide that right on in there. Fits there for that particular wand. And then another wand that she comes with, which is similar to the one that she had in the classics, except it was a clear orb on the top. But in this case, it's a translucent green orb. And again, it fits also right inside of her hand there, her right hand, so that she can use that. And then the next accessory she comes with is this effect, like a power effect, where she's casting a spell. And you can fit that in her left hand, just so, like that it's coming out of her finger, and it doesn't hold very strong, so you have to kind of get it just right, but it looks as though it's coming out of, and you see it doesn't want to stay. Might have to use a little tacky to get that to rest a little bit better onto her her hand or in her sleeve there. But it looks like kind of like her finger is shooting that out. We'll look at that in a second though when we go over articulation. But those are her accessories. Let's go to the review booth and check out her articulation. We're going to go to Horror Hall and check out the rest of this figure. And here we are at Horror Hall itself, where Hordak reigns supreme, right here in Horror Hall. His throne room, the dungeon, the opening gates over there, and even his technological lab where they are working with science to develop new ways to conquer Etheria. So there we are, and here's Shadow Weaver, our main subject. So let's first of all take a look at how our Shadow Weaver measures up. So to the top of her head, she's right at that 7-inch mark exactly, and that's with the base. Without the base, if you sit her directly down, she can stand without that base. You see that she's right. You see that she stands right at the 6.5 area there. But we're going to use her in her levitation mode here. And there you have her. She's just really nice looking. And you have this cape that is a separate piece. It's not attached to the sleeves. From my understanding, the classics one was. And so that's a nice change. But she still has all of these little areas that make it almost look like a flaming robe. You know, just the little tassels or the flowingness of this robe just really looks neat. And I think she looks dynamic. So just one more 360 here. Get a look at her. Like, love that hood with the coming off with the point there. That's looking really sharp. Everything's looking good. So let's look at the articulation now right quick here. Get an idea of how she moves. So first of all, for her head here, she's not really able to look up much more than what she already is because of the fact that this part right here hits the back of this cape section, and then she's able to look to the left and to the right, not able to look down much also because of this hood section that's below her jaw area, or face area I should say. And then let's go on to her arms. Her arms are on a hinge and they are able to go, if it weren't for the cape, they would be able to go 360, but she has a bicep swivel, which has a part of the robe there molded in, and also a elbow joint swivel and hinge, just single jointed, but it's really good range of motion, and then can only swivel at the wrist like the original classics could do. No hinge there. Like that green color in her hands. That's really nice. Love that yellow that's popping out of that black hood. She wears that being that she's been disfigured. Kind of like Skeletor was disfigured, right? Well, because of the magic upgrade that she got with science and magic and that orb or crystal that Hordak used on her during that transition to becoming more powerful, the most powerful sorceress in Etheria. Unfortunately, she was so disfigured she has to wear the hood, and that explains that. All right, so same thing on this arm. And now for a beautiful part that I think. Now, in the classics, and there's a picture of the classics one you can see there where I'm talking about the hinge and the diaphragm, which kind of took away from the aesthetics in this section. But instead of that, she has that ball joint right there underneath her bosom area here, her chest, and that allows her to get some right tilt and some left tilt a little bit, and is able to go back some. She kind of springs back, but she's able to lean back some and is able to lean forward some as well. You can tell there. So that's where that is. Now, it's not a huge range of motion, but it does have good range of motion with that ball joint to be able to get the poses that you need. Then you have a swivel at the waist. That's right, a swivel at the waist, which is really nice. And there's even a little play in that. Not a whole lot, not really meant to be a hinge, but you have a little bit of play. It's a very gummy rubber material here in this section, so you can play around with that. Just get an idea of how she can bend over here and stay. Not much. That's about as far over. Now let's see how far with using both that she can go up. Basically just sits all the way up. So not much. And then you can kind of play around with this to go to the side a little bit, to the left. Our right, her left. There you go. So she can maneuver some like that and get some poses. But like I was saying earlier, when you spread her out, even though they're not attached to the cape, these sleeves give her this kind of fanned out look, which makes her that much more intimidating. Really nice. Really nice. So she's fairly restricted in her motions and ability to move, but I think we'll be able to do some things with her to make her work in poses. So we'll see when we take some pictures in just a little bit. But just a really nice looking figure. Of course, there's no motion down here, no leg joints, no feet, no anything like that. You just have that nice stand to have her levitate. But just to give you an idea again, you can put this first wand in her hand here. And one of the things the classic one did come with that this one does not is that neat spell book. Kind of missed that, but it's too expensive, that classics version, for what it's going for. So I'm going to be happy with her. I'm going to be happy with this version of Shadow Weaver. And then her other wand, which goes in a little easier than the other one. You can see that's a translucent orb on the top of that wand. And then again, with this spell casting little feature here, if we straighten out her hand just so and kind of get it, see if we can twist her hand just a little bit to get her to hold. Whoop. All right, I was finally able to position it. You have to play around with it, but I was finally able to position it in her hand, as you can tell here, where she was able to hold on to it. It kind of goes inside of that just a little bit into the sleeve area, and if you position her hand and that garment just right, you can get that position so that it looks like her finger is kind of shooting out a spell. And so that's what that is designed to do, and you can kind of see that in the way you position it in her hand. Really nice looking figure overall. I'm very pleased with her. She is a little smaller than I was anticipating, but she's still in that 7-inch scale. She just does not have the heaviness and the thickness of some of the characters, but apparently she's a very petite sorceress woman, and that's fine. But I love this effect. I mean, it was mentioned also that possibly the end of that bulb could be dremeled out and her finger actually used as a peg to stick that in there, and we may try that at some point and see. I may try that before I take pictures at the end of the video. Alright, I was able to dremel a hole inside of that small little end bulb. There, you can see it on that end. You can almost see it on the inside where I dremeled. If you can find a drill bit small enough, you can dremel a hole into the end there, and then you can insert that on the end of her finger, kind of just spin it in there, and voila, you have on the end of her finger a casting spell feature that you can do it that way if you don't want to put that bulb in her hand and park it and kind of lean it against, tilt it against her sleeve. You can do it either way like I showed you earlier. And here's another option. Now I'm not sure how long it'll stay in there. It looks like it's drooping a little bit. And you could dremel that out a little further. I went as deep as I felt comfortable going. Could even use some tacky. But just wanted to show you very quickly that that was a possibility. But thank you so much for checking us out on Shadow Weaver. Like, subscribe, comment, or share, and we'll see you next time. We'll be covering Rebel Leader He-Man from the William Stout collection. Thank you and be blessed. Let's check out some photos.